Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for coming on. So to everyone listening, today on the podcast, we have Jessica Moorhouse. She is a money expert, financial educator, and owner and CEO of More Money Media, Inc. And you also have your own podcast as well, right?
I do call it the More Money Podcast. So it's
nice.
about more money topics.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. So we have been wanting to have an episode like this. We haven't been able to kind of come across the right person. Our whole kind of...
No, I was going to say, actually, a few months back, we did our own kind of financial advice podcast, but I feel like we had no idea what we were talking about. I'm just starting now. I'm in my early 20s, 22, so I'm just starting to kind of get the concept of money, saving, budgeting, all that jazz. So I had no idea what tips I was giving. But yeah, as she was saying, we wanted to have somebody on like you, an expert, because we feel like a lot of our listeners too are in that same adulting stage where, they're either just starting their first, full-time job, or they're trying to save, budget, buy a house, buy a mortgage, invest in stocks, all this, these serious
overwhelming things
that can be very scary when you don't know really what you're getting into. So yeah, that's kind of to premise this episode. I do want to know, sorry, I keep cutting you off though.
No, what?
I was gonna say, I do want to know a little bit more about you, or we want to know more about you and how you've started this journey, what made you want to become an expert and advise people on money.
And before you get into that, I just want to note to our listeners, I was looking through Jessica's her Instagram page and all of that, and I realized through on your post that you didn't actually go to school for finance or any business, right?
No.
So
not initially.
Right.
I definitely had, and that should probably give people hope that you don't have to get, an MBA to understand how to budget and invest and take care of your money. It's really something that everyone can learn. But no, I originally went to university to study filmmaking. Actually, I thought I was going to be a filmmaker. Yeah. I had some pretty lofty dreams now, and I look back in my 20s like, wow, I was pretty ambitious there. And it was a good experience. I mean, hey, I have a few, I guess, things I can now draw on for how I learned storytelling and content creation. So there's, it wasn't a completely useless degree, but similar to you, graduated in my early 20s, and I graduated. I'm an older millennial, so I graduated in 2009, and so if you remember, that is when we were in the recession with that 2008 market crash, and I had no idea about money as well, because I was just fully in filmmaking, and that's all I knew. And then I had to learn how to pay rent, and how do you afford all of your bills, and how do you manage a budget? I never learned any of that stuff, so I felt really far behind the pack, and was really concerned also about what if I never earn that much money? What if I was going to, work in the arts or something like that? I'm never going to earn that much money. So how am I going to retire one day? I'm not going to get a pension. So the idea, or the feeling of anxiety and just overwhelm is so normal, especially when you're really just starting your adult life. Totally normal. And I will say, as someone who's now so many years older, I'm in mid 30s, it gets so much better. Your 20s it's a rough go, because it's you're learning everything for the first time.
Right.
But then you get that life experience. You're like, oh, okay, it's actually not that scary. But how I kind of got into things was mainly because I realized how little I knew, and it was concerning. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. If someone were to ask me how to do this, I wouldn't know what to tell them. And so I started, what most people do. I got some books from the library and just started reading. I read personal finance blogs, and then I eventually started my own as a way to kind of keep myself accountable and have that excuse to continue to research and learn, and then kind of share what I learned. And I realized I actually love this stuff. I love this way more than I ever did filmmaking. It really kind of fit this thing that I was looking for, that passion. And I just did that on the side for a good 5 or 6 years. And then 5 years ago, quit my full-time job. I used to work in marketing, never worked in filmmaking, actually. Did a very left turn there, and have been running my own kind of a financial education company ever since.
Wow.
What a journey. Wow. So
I know.
I guess it's safe to say that you initially got into finance and reading about it, not necessarily to start your own business, but to just learn for yourself. And then from there, it kind of grew and just, okay.
Oh yeah, well, because like when I started my blog back in like late 2011, so this was a long time ago.
Right.
No one was making money online. Like you, like having a blog and making money, that wasn't the thing that anyone did.
Foreign, yeah.
Like you can maybe make a few $100s a month from AdSense, maybe, but sponsored posts or things like that. Influencer wasn't a term. Like I started my blog before Twitter existed. You know what I mean? So or was really popular, and so there was no like possibility that wasn't a thing. And so you really just did it on the side for fun and just for your self-education. I thought maybe I could pad my resume saying, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to do blogging.
Right.
But then over time, as like things evolve with social media and just the online space, that's when you kind of realize, oh, wait a minute. Hey, is there a way that I could actually, first, I just wanted to make some extra money so I can, save and invest and pay down, debts and stuff like that.
Right.
And then eventually I'm like, I think I can make a full-time living doing this. But like you mentioned, so I didn't go to business school or anything like that. But what I have done is obviously self-education and have taken some formal education since then. So now I'm an accredited financial counselor, and I'm also working towards becoming a CSP. So.
Oh, congrats. I mean, that's always good because now you're just supplementing all the information you already know, and you have these kind of things behind you. So when you are talking to people about it, they know like, okay, she also has the education behind her too. So no, that's really good.
That's part of the reason. Yeah. But here's the thing for people like you do not have to go that route. I'm obviously going like, I'm just going to keep on going because I love learning this stuff. But that's the thing. I used to think, I'm like, gosh, do I have to become like a financial planner to, understand how to manage my own finances? And no, and that's the other good thing with me studying to become a financial planner. I now see what these financial planners are taught. And I can tell you it's not rocket science.
I mean, that's good to hear because every time I go to the bank and they tell me something new, or I don't even know, I just get so flustered and I'm like, okay, so now I need to go home. I start researching a bunch of stuff that just doesn't make sense to me. It's like I'm trying to learn it all at once. So that kind of brings me to my next thing that I want to talk about. You mentioned how social media first back in 2011 wasn't that long ago, but still I get it. Like,
I know, but it feels like a long time ago.
I don't mean to say back in 2011, but there wasn't like, but but there wasn't Instagram. There wasn't all this really influential culture. And I feel like now, at least this is how I feel. I know that this is how a lot of like my close friends in my circle feel. There's really like an oversaturation of this like investment culture, I guess. So I guess I want to know your thoughts on it as a financial educator, as someone that teaches people about these things. Like, what do you think about this like investment culture? And just to give you some context, for example, I started investing without even really knowing what the F I was doing, to be honest with you. It was just because I saw all these people talking about it on their stories, invest in this, and I saw these little charts going up, and I'm like, okay, that means that they're making a lot of money, so let me just invest like $500 into this random stock that like might be doing good. Same with crypto, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess I kind of want to know your thoughts on that culture on social media in general. Is it toxic? Can we actually learn from it?
Sorry, before also you answer, I want to give like my take on that. Sam will always be like, you need to invest in this, invest now. I'm like, I'm always scared. I'm like, get that out of my face. I don't want to invest. And it's not because like I don't want to do it. I think I'm scared because I don't know the right information. Yeah, I don't know the right information.
Because you're using real money. Yeah, exactly. It's not just playing around. You could lose real money.
I was telling Sam, like, well, how does it go back into your checkings or savings account? Does it like I was asking questions.
These sound like stupid questions, but like let
they're
me
not.
Just be honest with the listeners here listening and you as well. Like, I've put money into investments, right? I have never yet taken it out because I'm scared of the process of it coming out into my bank account. I'm like, wait, how does this get done? Is it going to get like stolen along the way? And I know that sounds so stupid, but it's honestly a thought that crosses my mind. I kind of fake it till I make it when I talk about these things. But since we're talking with you, I just wanted to ask you kind of what you thought about it.
Well, I'm curious, just to maybe I can answer your situation. So what platform did you use to invest in some of the stocks that you kind of mentioned?
For stocks, I've used Wealthsimple, but I also
the trading app.
Yeah, but I also have some in my bank with my Tfsa. So like I kind of put it in both, and then for I don't know if this applies to like crypto as well, but for that I just use an app as well. Obviously,
so for Wealthsimple Trade, is that in a registered account like an Rrsp or Tfsa, or is it just in a
Tfsa? Yeah, and Wealthsimple as well.
Great. Okay, so very easy with a Tfsa because they really are flexible. You can put cash in there, or you can invest in there. If you want to take money out, awesome. And if you're like, I want to actually cash out, this might actually be the time to do it because we're at the end of the year. So what happens is if you withdraw funds from your TFSA, let's say you withdraw, $6,000 or $5,000, for example, from your TFSA, in the next tax year, and starting January 2022, you get that room back. So you never lose it if you make withdrawal. So that's kind of nice.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, I'm pretty sure with that platform or other similar platforms, it's literally just a button that says withdraw, and then you connect it to your bank, and then it's like
and nothing's going to happen with. Okay, got it.
No, very easy. I've done it myself, but yeah, until you've done it before, you're like, I don't know how this works, right? Again, it comes with experience. Now, with your bank, I'm going to guess that you have a TFSA is most likely in a portfolio of mutual funds. Maybe. Do you know what it is? Probably mutual funds.
Yeah,
with the bank.
Yeah.
Probably. If you work with an advisor, that's definitely what they told
do,
you.
Yeah.
And so similarly, you would basically contact your advisor to be like, I want to make a withdrawal and connect it to you. And if you have a bank account with that bank, then they'll just put it into your bank account.
Okay.
Got it. As easy as it is. Okay. But here's the other thing to remember too. A lot of people think that if I want to move my money, let's say I don't want to have my money in mutual funds to the bank, I want to move it over to Wealthsimple Trade. Do I have to make a withdrawal in order to move that money? You do not. You can actually transfer your TFSA from your bank over to Wealthsimple Trade or some other institution. That's called a plan-to-plan transfer. So basically, the money is never withdrawn; it's just moved, and so you don't. It doesn't count
towards that. It doesn't count towards that amount that you're allowed to. Okay, interesting. That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but yeah, like that's not a dumb question. It's like, how would you know unless you've done it? And how would you know unless you knew what to ask your advisor, right? But So going back to your questions about kind of the rise of all of this, investing information online, and I feel like it's really exploded. I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, wow, there's never been more information online on like Instagram and TikTok, because the pandemic and everyone was at home, right? And I know it's been around, these, people that are like investing bros and whatnot have been online for a long time, especially on YouTube and stuff. But I feel like there's been an explosion in the past couple of years. And I've never gotten more questions about things like, should I buy this stock? Should I buy cryptocurrency and stuff like that? Like I've never seen before. And I think it's one good thing is, hey, there's more information out there. More people are thinking about investing and maybe they wouldn't have this early on.
True.
So there's, and it's never been easier to invest, which is great. The downside is you feel this pressure and this kind of FOMO if you do not start investing now.
It's
and then
FOMO.
you're like, okay, I know.
FOMO.
Yeah.
It's the FOMO, right? It's like, oh, I'm an idiot if I don't start investing now because so-and-so invested and now they're rich or now they can afford a house or whatever, even though we don't know what's actually going on with anyone's investments. Because remember, the key thing is everyone will shout to the rooftops about their investment returns. They will not tell you how much money they lost because that's embarrassing,
that's
right?
Very true. Yeah, you never
so you have
hear
no
about
idea
those.
how much money they lost. If like maybe they made 10 grand, but they lost 10 grand, so they actually just broke even. Right?
Right.
So I think it's really important to be very careful. Just like any kind of thing that you're researching, like diet culture and stuff, there's some scammy, scary things out there.
Yeah.
There's also some people providing good information. So you've got to really understand who is providing this information and take everything with a grain of salt that you find on social media. Like even for me, I'm on social media, but I can't share every in and out on everything on social media. It's just like a little clip. And so it's really important to read kind of like those more long form, pieces of research, books, blogs, articles on like the Financial Post, the Globe and Mail, things like that, to really kind of educate. But yeah, just be careful with I've been getting so many questions about like Forex trading and crypto and stuff like that. And for the most part, I feel like most investors, especially young, new investors, don't even need to touch any of that kind of stuff. You don't need to be an investor. You don't have to invest in individual stocks or cryptocurrency or anything kind of crazy. For me, one kind of investing strategy that I've been part of for a long time is called passive investing. So if you've ever heard, maybe you've seen this online, index funds, investing, that's what it's about. Most people, I think it's actually becoming less popular, which I'm totally cool with because it's not sexy, it's boring, and it's very simple. All it means is investing in a diversified fund, similar to a mutual fund, either an index mutual fund or an exchange traded fund that you're basically investing in a bunch of different companies. And then, ones that are either tracking the Canadian stock market, U.S. stock market, international stock markets, or emerging markets. And then there's also bond ETFs as well. So I have a whole course that goes through all this because there is a lot to know. But I would say if you're interested in investing, one, kind of strategy that is, if you can look at historical information and returns on that, index investing is a great path to do some more research on.
And would you say, because I know in one of your posts you also talked about like getting rich quick versus getting rich slow.
Slowly, yeah.
This would be the way to kind of like accumulate that wealth over time rather than I feel like with this like investment culture on social media, it's very like get rich quick, invest in this crypto and you're gonna have like this amount of money by like next month. So that's kind of what you're touching on is like the kind of accumulating
It's
wealth.
like, why do we have to get rich immediately? And also, you know how difficult it actually is to get, you know, those big gains, like those 10 bakers, as people say. It's ridiculous. It's very difficult to get rich quick or to make a really good, you know, investment and see it, you know, triple or quadruple in value. I personally would much rather have the certainty that I'm like, I know I am going to build wealth, but it's going to be over time. So I have to be patient and it's kind of boring. So I'd rather, you know, like my thing is I like to get rich slowly, but eventually instead of get rich quickly, but probably not, you know?
I like that.
That's so true because people like, especially our age, young adults or like in their 20s, they want to get rich quick. They always want like the fast route out, I feel. So that's why I also feel there's misinformation because they're telling you how to do it like so quickly, but is that really the good way like to do it? Is that really the right path?
Yeah, and that's why there's so many of these kind of you know, new cryptocurrencies that I swear there's a new one that pops up every single week, and so many of them are scams. And people are like, oh, this is the one I'm going to jump in, and this is how I'm going to make all that money, and then you get scammed. I know I've talked to so many people who've gotten ripped off because like the platform they used crumbled, or the crypto was just total fake. So it's like you got to be really careful with some of those things. And I think what also people don't realize is, let's say you are investing in something that's, you know, like Bitcoin or something. It's like that's been around the longest. Hey, I own some Bitcoin too, not a lot, but a little bit. I think most people don't realize that. Let's say you bought it for like $10,000 and then you sold it for $50,000. You know, you have to pay tax on that gain, so that capital gain. And most people don't realize because you cannot hold cryptocurrency in a registered account. You can hold, you know, a Bitcoin ETF inside a registered account, so you can kind of get away with that. But a lot of people are, you know, investing tons of money and they don't realize that they have to pay tax on that. And that can be a significant tax burden.
That's very interesting. I honestly never thought of that for crypto purposes, but that would make sense because you're technically earning money on those investments. Yeah,
exactly.
So that kind of brings me to the importance of having, for people like us, like for me and my sister, we talk about like saving money and all this stuff and what to save for, but how do you actually budget those savings? Because like I don't budget. I know that's probably very bad, but I graduated in the pandemic. And so it was difficult to kind of find my first job, and I went through like some highs and lows of like being okay with the career I chose and kind of transitioning. So now I'm a little bit more secure in like kind of all the things that I'm doing with the podcast, with my job and everything. I'm like, okay, maybe I should now start budgeting because I'm seeing an influx of money come in, but I genuinely don't know how. I know Fran doesn't know how.
I've tried different ways off things I found on like Pinterest, like those cute budget like this, but I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be writing hearts on my butt. Like it's so much and so tedious. And, you know, I'm going to like say it, and we put it in a post before, and I feel like so many people can relate to this. Like there's been times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to budget myself to, I don't know, $200 tonight. But then I end up, you know, going over that budget, and then I'm transferring savings to checkings and then spending my checkings, and my savings is going down. And I'm like, oh my God. Like,
and then you're like, okay, I'll just start again next week because I didn't get it perfect this week.
So I guess our question is, can you touch on the importance of budgeting, especially when you do have that influx of money coming in? Like I know a lot of people get so excited, I guess, and just kind of want to spend it all, which is, I think it's okay to want to spend the money, but I kind of want you to touch on the importance of budgeting and what like a first step to practical budgeting can be.
Well, yeah, I think you touched on it. It's like money, it's okay to spend money. Money is meant to be spent, but it's like, do you want to spend it now or do you want to spend it later? And also, if you wait until later, maybe there'll be more money to spend. Right. So that's kind of one thing. So what I always tell people is when it comes to budgeting, maybe give it a different label like spending plan or just like guide for your money or something like that. So it doesn't have that kind of, you know, icky feeling of budgeting. But instead of starting with like your line items and what you should and shouldn't do, really start with what are your goals? Like, what do you want to happen with your money? What do you want to save for? That's the exciting part. That's the fun part. So it's like, well, I want to go on a trip. I want to buy a home one day. I want to pay off, you know, my debt. I want to get married one day and have a wedding. I want to do all these things. Write all of those goals down. You can start big and get really micro. I've worked with clients, as a financial counselor for a number of years. Sometimes they could be like, I want to get, braces,
Okay.
or I want to, you're like, well, that's gonna be $10,000. So I'm gonna have to start saving up for that so I can do that. And so I'd start there, and then you can kind of figure out, okay, those are the goals. Well, when do I want to achieve them? So what's the kind of timeline for all those goals? So you can be like 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, kind of find out what are the immediate ones, what are the long-term ones. And then also figure out, okay, on an estimate, how much do I need for those goals? So braces, $10,000. A trip, $3,000, and I want to do it in a year. Retirement should obviously be a goal. That's probably not for another 4 decades. And let's say you can use some online, retirement calculators, just get an estimate. Maybe it's like $1.5 million, which I know sounds insane.
Yeah.
But over time, somehow compound interest does work. Because again, I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm like, it's kind of crazy how the money just kind of grows and grows over time just by doing some really smart things with it. So start there, and then it's really about kind of organizing it into one place. So for me, there's so many different, like you've seen lots of different budget spreadsheets and platforms and stuff. It's really about finding one that clicks, that you're actually excited to check out every month or something. I developed my own one, so it's free on my website. So again,
cool.
You could just make your own. But the key thing is really, there's a kind of a old piece of advice that's still really good, which is paying yourself first. And really that means when you have that income come in, you want to dedicate a portion to your savings goals first. So that's your investments and your short-term savings goals. And then whatever's left over, you can spend. But then obviously for whatever's left over to spend, well, we have to bill. So we definitely need to make sure that we pay all of our bills. And once all of those kind of fixed or, important necessities are taken care of, then whatever is left over, you can spend. And then, that could look like, shopping or, entertainment, groceries, takeout, whatever you want. But really kind of starting with the savings and then your kind of needs and then your wants is kind of a great way to kind of organize it. But giving yourself some flexibility so you can treat yourself. So what I do, instead of giving it a line item as an expense for like shopping or like getting makeup and stuff like that, because I'm like, I don't like go shopping every single month, but sometimes once a quarter or something like that, I want to drop some money. And so instead, I actually make that a savings goal. So every, paycheck or whatever, I put a certain amount of money into a savings account called shopping. Then I see that money accumulate. Then by the time it's like, oh, great, it's like springtime and I want to get some new clothes. I've got like $500 in there and I can do whatever the heck I want because that's why I saved it. It's for the purpose of spending.
I like that. And
I like that too.
I want to touch on 2 things you said. So firstly, you said savings, needs, and then wants. I feel like a lot of us merge savings and needs together. So like you'll have your wants, like AK, like just for the sake of simplifying it, aka your checkings account. Okay. So like you get paid through your checking account, whatever. And then people will transfer that money to their savings, and then they're using their savings to pay off like the car insurance or like the mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. But you're suggesting that it should be like savings because those are kind of like more long-term. So your investments and what you're saving up for retirement, et cetera, your needs, which do need to get paid every month. So that makes sense. Why would you be taking it out of your savings and then your wants?
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many different kind of bank account structures. And usually what I recommend is like, I usually use Canva to make a nice little visual, but just take a pen and paper and just like kind of draw out like all your different accounts and how you want the money to flow. So you can try to automate it as well. But yeah, so for your savings goals, your investment accounts, those should be in savings accounts or your Rrsp or Tfsa and things like that. For your bills and stuff like that, usually I recommend if you have like subscriptions or bills that you can pay by your credit card, have a dedicated credit card that you don't use for any variable expenses. So don't use it for takeout or groceries or things like that, but just for bills. And then just link your phone bill, your subscriptions and stuff like that to that credit card. And then it's the same amount that's being charged every month. Very easy to track that. And then just pay it off from money in your checking account every month. And then for your other bills, maybe like rent, where you have to do an Interactive transfer or some other things that you can't use, put on your credit card, just leave that money in your checking account and then pay it through your checking account. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so how do I make sure I don't spend too much money or the money I dedicated for my bills for like when I'm doing takeout or my variable spending? That's what I usually recommend, either having another dedicated credit card for that, but then it's very easy to just go over the limit and stuff like that.
Right.
So maybe it could be a couple different things. You can have a second checking account, and lots of online accounts will, online banks and stuff like that will allow you to do that. Have a debit card, just use debit. Or you can use like a prepaid Visa, like a Toho or something like that, where it's like you load money on there, so you can't go over the limit. And that's how much you kind of budget for your takeout and whatever you want. So creating a system where you can kind of keep yourself accountable and everything's organized. And also giving every single bank account, financial product, credit card a specific purpose is really key.
I really like that because I have a habit of using my Visa for everything, and then it'll rack up, and then I can't pay it off, and I'm like, fuck. And then I'm in like a little bit of debt, and then I have to use my checkings to pay it all off, and then I have to start all over again. Like I'll use my Visa for Uber Eats, I'll use it for all my subscriptions, I use it for my bills, for my gas, and I'm like, okay, where is all this money going? And it's accumulating on my Visa, and then all that obviously I have to pay off. So it like seeing my checking account like decrease that much because I have to pay it all off is also kind of like not frustrating. What's the word?
Daunting.
Yeah, it's like shit. Like I spent a lot of money.
Yeah, and then you just have to keep it all organized in your mind. Like, wait, how much money do I have for this and this? If you have a structure where it's like money goes here, there, and so you know, okay, there's like, you know, $500 on my, you know, Koho card until I, you know, get paid again. So I know I have $500 and it's the balance goes down. Then I know, oh, I only have $100 left until payday. So I better stop spending money because I only have $100. Like having some sort of system to easily know how much money do I have for these things.
Yeah, got it. Sorry, last thing just on like this whole topic. This is so interesting to me, but so I guess it does seem really daunting, and I feel like, at least for me, seeing like a large sum in one account is almost, it's what I'm trying to say is like it needs to be a change of mindset, I think, because seeing a large sum in one account is so much nicer than seeing like smaller bits in between different accounts, if that makes sense, right? So that's how sometimes how I think. I've been trying to manage my money more so that I have 2 savings account. I don't really know what they're for yet. I was kind of just opening stuff and just figuring it out as I go, but for this kind of thing, someone can go to someone like you to be able to help them figure out what should go with what, right? Like you would be able to sit down with me or whoever would be interested in something like this and be able to be like, okay, go through all your expenses and figure out what each savings account can be allocated to, right?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and that's why like I made a budget spreadsheet with some like video tutorials because I you know, put it up there for free and people download it. Then it got lots of questions like, okay, here's a tutorial on how it actually works and how you can kind of implement it for yourself. And I think that's been very helpful. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where it seems really complicated until you kind of see someone else do it and you're like, oh, but when you said it's nice to see that big number in that one account, so why would I want to divide it into other accounts? So here's my workaround. So on top of having a budget, which is like, this is what I want to happen with my money, you also need to keep yourself accountable to be like, am I actually doing that? And that's when you do have to track your spending. And it shouldn't be that. It honestly, I've been doing it for like 6 years or something now. So it really doesn't take that much time, like an hour per month. And everyone has an hour per month. You can watch a TV show as you like put your, you know, spending just by downloading your transactions from your bank and just putting them into the spreadsheet. Then you can kind of see where did that money go. And then next, tracking your net worth, which is the fun part. It's the part I love to do every single month.
So that is worth. Okay.
Your net worth. So that is you putting in the balances of all of your different bank accounts, investment accounts, any assets that you have. If you have a car and you know you could sell it for $5,000, put that in there. That's an asset. And then your liabilities, your debt. So if you have student loans, a credit card balance, stuff like that, you'd put that in there to find out how much is my net worth. So what is your assets minus your liabilities? And if you do that over time, I do it on a monthly basis, that gives you motivation to see if you're paying down your debt and your debt's going down. And if you're saving more money and your investments are growing, your net worth goes up every month. And that is very exciting. But that's also a way where you could just, in the, you know, spreadsheet, it totals all of your, you know, your assets and stuff. So that'll give you that big number that kind of gives you that motivation. Oh, I've got money.
That's really interesting because you can see like, rather than kind of being, I don't want to say sad, but like seeing things go down because you're spending so much, you can also see it go up. You can see what you're actually worth. That's really interesting. Okay.
Well, especially a motivation for lots of people who feel like they're not making progress with their savings. They have all this debt, but it's like, if you're just saving a little bit and also just like paying down your debts, then your net worth is growing. Because eventually you'll have no debt and then bam, you'll have just all these assets. So that's like motivation to pay down your debt too.
I feel like I learned more right now than I ever have in school.
I've taken countless accounting and finance courses, like academic courses, and I sit there, I'm like, I don't understand any of this, but you put it in such simple terms and in like an exciting way. So
yeah, so thank you for that lesson.
I'm gonna go home my whiteboard and just start writing my
well, this is like the time to do it. I feel like, especially as we get into the new year, and I'm even excited, like every new year, that's when I like outline my goals, make my little vision board, and then you can include this part, like the budgeting, into kind of your new year resolution.
Right. No, that makes sense. Okay. So I guess my last thing that I don't know if you have anything that you want to add, but the last thing that I kind of want to add, since we're running out of time, is financial wellness. You mentioned this on your Instagram, and I've never really heard of that term before. And like, I feel like it's associated with self-care. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But like, to me, I never thought of financial wellness with self-care. Like, to me, those two weren't terms that
you're like, what is that? What are you talking about? Because most people just think, personal finance, money management, that's just a bunch of numbers and calculators and spreadsheets. But when you think about it, if you take care of your money, you're taking care of present you and future you. And that is kind of the definition of self-care. So if you are doing some of these kind of things that sound sort of boring, like, your RSPs and, paying your taxes and paying down your debt.
Oh,
as boring as that all sounds, again, as you get older and you look back, you're like, I was actually taking care of myself. It's nice to take a bubble bath and put on a facial mask. I love that as well. I do that once a week and it's a nice treat. But you will thank yourself future. You will be like, I'm so glad I did some of those really annoying, boring things because it really paid off. And again, like as we are in this world where things are so expensive, how are we going to pay for retirement? How are we going to own a home? It seems impossible. And believe me, even though, it seems like right now it's just so crazy and expensive. I thought the exact same thing 10 years ago when I was in my mid-20s. And so the world is never kind of fair and things are always going to happen. Things are always going to be expensive. And so if you just kind of like put that to the side and still do what you can do, what is in your control, you'll feel less anxious and less worried about your money in general and your future.
I really like that. I feel like an overall takeaway, even from just that, is a mindset shift. Like, don't think of these things like budgeting and doing your taxes and all the things that you just mentioned as like these really boring, daunting things that you have to do. I feel like, also to everyone listening, I feel like these are things you get to do for your future self. So like, think about it that way. And I never thought about it that way, honestly. It's so daunting to me. Sometimes I'm just like, hey, I don't want to do this, but I like that. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I do want, I know I said that was the end, but I do want to end with just a couple rapid fire questions. We got a few in, but since we're running out of time, I'll give you two. So let me just open it up here. So number one is, you kind of touched on this, but the main difference, because I think people get confused with this, between a Tfsa and an Rrsp. I know that there's differences, but
they're different, but they're same, but different. Yeah.
Right,
so it's like we've got a Tfsa. That is your tax-free savings account. How it works is, so those are the two main registered accounts. Tfsa is great, I'd say, especially for people younger who are not in a high tax bracket, that don't need a tax deduction from their RSPs. That is maybe the account that you should focus on putting your investments inside. So how it works is, we all get, a new contribution room every year. So far, the past several years, it's been $6,000. But if you've never contributed to your Tfsa and maybe you're in your mid-20s and you have no idea how much room have I accumulated, go into your CRA My Account, and it'll show you exactly how much room that you have because you don't want to over contribute. But basically the concept is you're putting after tax dollars, so you don't get a tax deduction. So you've already paid tax on your income, then you contribute that money to your Tfsa, but then it can grow tax free. So let's say you did buy an investment for $1,000, it doubled to $2,000, and you want to withdraw those $2,000, you don't pay any tax on that gain.
Okay.
Beautiful. And also you get that room back the following tax year.
And so,
now, an RSP is a bit different in that you're putting pre-tax dollars, so you get that tax deduction, which can be great if you're in a higher tax bracket looking to reduce your tax liability. But it's not tax-free, you're tax deferring. So basically, you're putting this money into the account, it's going to grow, and then the idea is when you're in retirement, you're at a lower tax bracket than your working years, and you withdraw funds from your RSP, then you do pay tax on that money that you withdraw.
Okay, and that makes sense because that's going to be years down the line. That's okay.
Yeah, it's just like future me is paying the tax on this RSP.
I don't need to worry about it right now. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so last rapid fire question. If you had $5,000 sitting around today, where would be the best place to put it, in your opinion?
Yeah, so if you don't already have a emergency fund, I'd put it in a savings account for your emergency fund. If you have some debt, put it on your debt. If you already have your emergency fund, you're debt free, then I would invest it in your Tfsa or your RSP in a diversified portfolio of index funds.
Diversified portfolio of index funds. Okay, got it. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much. Can you kind of plug where the listeners can find you?
Your program
your programs, anything that you have that you can plug and they can kind of reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, find me on Instagram. You found me on Instagram.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
At
you.
Jessica I. Moorhouse. I have a podcast for the More Money Podcast. If you want to learn more about personal finance, I have like over 300 episodes. You can really dive deep. And I have a course called Wealth Building Blueprint for Canadians. And so it's a investing course specifically for Canadians, showing you if you're a beginner or even if you do have some experience with investing, I show you kind of the fundamentals of investing and how to build your own investment portfolio.
Amazing. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very insightful.
Thank you for taking the time to come on too. I know we learned so much. We're going to go home and just like discuss this the whole night. But I know our listeners also really appreciate this. So thank you again for taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Anyways, guys, thank you for watching and listening to this episode. I don't know about you guys, but I learned so much, like more than I've ever learned in school, especially when she started talking about budgeting and the way to budget, like having different savings accounts to allocate to different parts of your life and your spending. I understand having a savings account and a checkings account and like your investments in Tfsa, but like I never thought about kind of allocating each of those accounts to certain things. Like this savings account will be for shopping. Like that's exciting.
I only thought you could open one savings account.
No.
No, you can have multiple. So
to be honest, I didn't know that until recently, and I know that sounds so fucking stupid, but like...
No, it doesn't sound stupid, because a lot of people don't know and they're just too afraid to say, because
you're scared that you're going to sound stupid.
But
straight up, I did not know that you could have two checking accounts from two different banks, because I was like, how do you transfer the money? But you could just e-transfer yourself.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah.
So I went to TD the other day, because for whatever reason, I wanted to open a new checking account at TD because I have one at RBC already for my reasons. And so I was asking her, I was like, can I open a checking account even though I already have one at RBC? And she was like, yeah. And I felt so fucking dumb.
Why? Who cares?
Like she was like, yeah, you can. I was like, okay. So anyways, point is, I feel like Jessica's a great resource. What are you doing?
I'm getting the thing ready that I was going to show.
Oh, I feel like Jessica's a great resource to go to her page, hit her up, ask her any questions you have, because I feel like no question's a stupid question, because clearly some of the questions we were asking her seemed like public knowledge, but she actually wasn't that surprised that we were asking those, because I'm sure a lot of people slide in her DMs and ask her these things. I bet you that me and you, or like whatever, you're talking to your friend, you're not going to randomly tell your friend like, I don't know, I don't even know what I'm investing in, to be honest, I'm just investing, because you're going to sound stupid. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't invest, but yeah.
Anyways,
I want to bring something up.
Is that DJ Pauly D?
No, I want to bring something up I thought was
Why
funny.
does it say tap to see this image? I don't even tap.
I want to bring something up.
Whenever you get a DM from a guy and it says tap to see this image, we never fucking tap it. We want to do a
whole episode on like dating app do's and don'ts. I download and then delete Hinge every like once a month, because like I'm just interested to see like what's on it. And there's this new thing I showed Sam where you can put your voice memo on it, like to do prompts. It's the funniest thing ever. Anyways, so I don't know why I was talking about that. Oh yeah, I just want to do an episode on like dating apps, but I want to say this now because I came across it. I'm not trying to make fun of this guy in any way. I'm just trying to advise people that this is not the way, like, at least like me or like girls.
This isn't the way you're gonna get me.
No, not like, no, I'm saying like me. I'm just saying I think girls in general don't like to be approached this way. This guy starts off telling me his portfolio and facts.
What do you mean?
As if he's a car model and I'm trying to buy him.
Scroll.
He goes, Tony, 6'2". Oh, I shouldn't say his name. You can bleep it.
Okay, there's a lot of bleeps in this world, so.
Fuck, I feel bad for saying his name. Whatever his name is, height, nationality, status, and then I'd spoil you. Then he goes on to send me some pictures.
Oh my god, he sent her stacks of 50s.
Lots of cash with his tattoo, like, in the thing. I'm not going to show the pictures because like, that's personal.
Wait, that's a lot of money. Why?
Sam, but we don't know whose money this is.
That's true.
He sends this. Cute.
Okay.
He sends his candy. Then he proceeds to send me the inside of his closet.
He sent you his closet?
He sent me the inside of his closet, showing me that he has Givenchy. I don't know how to pronounce it. Givenchy t-shirts.
Maybe and then he's showing you where he's gonna fucking hold you captive when you go in his house.
His shoes and his very well organized cabinets. And I'm like, fuck, your closet's way nicer than mine. His cologne. Like, why are you showing me? He acts like I'm gonna be like, holy fuck, your closet's so nice. I'm interested. Spoil me. Like, no, I just thought that was.
Is that a video?
Just wait till the end. I'm not trying to make fun of this guy. I just thought that I've never seen that before in my life.
Okay,
so
I don't know. Did he say how old he was? No, he didn't.
No.
Okay, because I bet you he's like...
He's probably a catfish. He probably just got those pictures.
No, he's probably not... How many followers did he have?
Like 72.
And yeah.
I don't know. Catfish. I just thought it was funny. Like, the closet thing, I was actually pissing. I was like, what, like, entices you to send me a picture of your closet?
But, like, I feel like there's some men out there who just have no, like, social cues when it comes to...
There's also men out there that think that flashing their, like materialistic things will make... Because some girls
it does work sometimes for some girls.
Yeah, some girls like that. Like, I personally don't care if you own Givenchy shoes. But anyways, I just thought that was funny. That was, like, my weekly update because I don't have any else. But anyways, guys...
yeah, we'll save like our rant episode for the last episode of 2021, which will come out in a few weeks. So we'll talk to you guys then, and yeah.
Press it.
You press it.
Wendy's in the way.
No. Hi. Okay.
What? Why are you laughing?
He was like, and I was like, hi. Oh my god, sorry. Okay. Okay. Stomach hurts.
What the fuck? No, you didn't have to actually cut it. I was kidding.